Well, internet, at this point, I don't know what to say. There's been so many freaking good movies that came out in 2021. I'm just like stunned. I've been using these past couple weeks to get caught up on films that I hadn't seen yet, and it's just like every movie that I watch, it just gets better and better, and it's unbelievable. So today I'm going to be talking about a filmmaker that I have seen 2 of his works now, and that is director Mike Mills. And the movie I'm going to be talking about today is Come On, Come On. A while back I watched 20th Century Woman for the first time, and I've actually seen it a couple times now. And it is one of my favorite films ever made. I feel like Mike Mills has this way of understanding people that you just don't see in a lot of directors' films. His movies are so incredibly human, and they show the flaws of people and the beauty of people and just everything that you would come to expect when studying a person, but it's not done in that stereotypical Hollywood manner of like blowing things out of proportion where you're like, okay, no human being would ever act this way. Like everything feels so real in his movies. 20th Century Woman was this beautiful exploration of a mother and son's relationship and the other people that were in their lives, and I was just absolutely floored. And I know a lot of people praise his other film Beginners, which I still haven't seen unfortunately, but after watching Come On, Come On, I am ready to jump on board. Come On, Come On is one of my favorite films of the year. It's definitely going to be close in the runner-up for top spot, which with some of the other films I've seen this year didn't think would be possible, but this movie made me an emotional mess. One of the most beautiful films I've ever seen, and I'm sure on revisit that I'll grow to love it even more. Come On, Come On stars Joaquin Phoenix as Johnny, a documentary filmmaker whose latest project involves interviewing children, bonds with his smart yet sensitive nephew, Jesse, played by Woody Norman, whose father struggles with bipolar disorder and is in the grips of a manic episode. This film, on the surface level, is incredibly simplistic. You have this story of Joaquin Phoenix's character, who is a documentary filmmaker who's going around and interviewing kids, and he's asking them these very specific sets of questions about like, what do you think about the future, things about your personal life, and there's these really beautiful interviews interlaid throughout the entire film. Alongside that, you have this backdrop of Joaquin Phoenix's sister, Viv, played by Gaby Hoffmann, as her husband, as the description of the film I said, has bipolar disorder. He has manic episodes. It seems like from the state of his apartment that's shown throughout the film that he also has OCD. He's left their home and traveled across the country to live at this apartment and try to start this career. His wife feels that it's in her best interest to go take care of him, but she doesn't really know what to do for a babysitter, and so Joaquin Phoenix drops everything that he's doing with the documentary and says, yeah, I'll come watch your son. The movie at its core is about the bonding of these 2 people, about this uncle and his nephew, but there's so much more under the surface about growing as a person and like a child's understanding of people and just cutting the bullshit out of life. And it really moved me emotionally to the point where I could not stop crying in the third act of this movie. It's just so beautiful and poignant and intelligent. So the first thing I want to talk about obviously is the performances. You have my boy Joaquin Phoenix, who is arguably my favorite actor working in Hollywood. His performance is phenomenal. There's something about him as an actor that he is so charismatic and funny and warm. I know that's an interesting thing to say, but when he plays these characters, it was really reminiscent to me of the character he played in Her, where just he has this warm sense of self that you just constantly feel and care for his character on such a deep and emotional level. Without him, I don't think the movie would necessarily be the same. And the other knockout performance is the young actor Woody Norman, who plays his nephew, who is just amazing. I've talked before in some of my older reviews, when I was doing all the horror reviews early on, that I'm not the biggest fan of child actors. I feel like a lot of times when you put child actors into certain circumstances, it feels like they're just reading off of a script. It doesn't feel like they're committed enough or in tune with the material enough for it to really resonate. And Woody Norman's character is unbelievable. He is so committed to this performance, and it really feels like the relationship that he has with Joaquin Phoenix's character and how they build over time, because they're essentially strangers. They haven't seen each other in over a year. Joaquin Phoenix had a falling out with his sister when their mother died, which is conveyed through these incredibly unique and interesting flashback sequences that are executed flawlessly. They're essentially strangers who are getting to know each other again. They have these scenes where the two of them are just like sitting in a room together, and him being a 9-year-old kid, he just looks at Joaquin Phoenix and asks him these really gut-wrenching and difficult questions that when you're an adult and you're put into a circumstance that you have to talk to a person and you have to actually engage in a real conversation, you put up walls, and there's so much bullshit and garbage that is in the way of you just saying how it really is. And you feel like in a professional environment that you have to convey yourself in a specific way, or even in a social environment where you might not necessarily be closer to someone, you feel like you have to hide what's really going on. I love there's this scene where they were talking, Joaquin Phoenix is talking to Woody Norman's character, and Woody Norman just looks at him and says, "Why don't you talk to my mom anymore?" Just not like no bullshit, no anything. And just Joaquin Phoenix is so taken aback by the fact that this young boy is so willing to ask hard-hitting questions that he's not used to, and that adults don't just look at each other and say this stuff to you. Like it was really fascinating and beautiful, and the conversations are what make this movie so unique. Next, I want to talk about the cinematography. This film is shot in beautiful black and white cinematography. This movie hops location to location, so you have time in Los Angeles, time in New York City, and you have time in New Orleans. And each location is shot very delicately and documentary-esque. I know Mike Mills has a history of doing documentary filmmaking. I'm sure this film is very self-explorative. It's so beautiful. There's so many incredible shots in this movie. It's one of those circumstances where the black and white feels purposeful, and it makes the movie feel timeless, and I loved that about it. I know there's a lot of people who use black and white where it feels a lot more just like niche, or like they're trying to fit an aesthetic choice. This movie really feels like it's utilizing the black and white to its advantage. I loved it. There's so many unique framing devices in this movie. There's this really cool shot where you see like Joaquin Phoenix lying on a bed through like just the little crack in the door frame. And there's so many unique visual style choices. And what's cool is, as a documentarian, as your background, like Mike Mills, you're used to doing what you can to provide information in a documentary in the most visually compelling way possible, and translating that to narrative, especially like with the 20th Century Woman. He just really has a way of utilizing the camera in the best way possible. There are a lot of static shots, which can be a trademark of a documentary filmmaker. Yeah, this movie, it's just something special. And there's these really cool moments where Joaquin reads excerpts from certain books, and the title card and the author's name just kind of pops up on the screen while he's reading that material. And I loved that about this movie. And each work of literature adds on to the overall plot so much more, conveys this beautiful message and this relationship of uncle and nephew, and how Woody Norman's character gives Joaquin Phoenix a new perspective on things. And it's just beautiful and moving, and it's also heartbreaking. And watching what Viv's character had to go through when their mother died, and how Johnny's character are just not close anymore because of how they mishandled the situation. And then seeing Viv's character deal with her husband and the horrible things that her husband's going through, and just how incredible of a human being she is, that she's trying to be there for him and make his life better, while at the same time Johnny, being a brother, being concerned for his sister. And there's so many complex emotional dynamics in this movie that are all explored so well, and it feels human and it feels real, and it doesn't feel like Hollywood bullshit, which is nice. I like watching movies that feel like real life, and this movie most certainly feels like real life. The score to this film is beautiful. It's utilized perfectly at moments in the film where it's necessary, but it never feels emotionally manipulative. And that's one of the things about soundtracks in films. You can, if you're not a great director, you can utilize soundtrack to sort of manipulate the audience's feeling that it's having towards a scene. And in this movie, the soundtrack just accompanies the feelings that you're already getting from the stellar performances and the amazing cinematography. So yeah, I don't want to say much more because this movie has a lot of really incredible moments and I don't want to give it all away. It is a beautiful film that's very simple on the surface but very complex underneath. I think everybody should watch it, and it is one of my favorite films of the year, and it's probably going to cement itself in one of my favorite films of all time. Mike Mills, you are a fucking incredible filmmaker. Please keep making movies. This movie was phenomenal. So have you seen Come On, Come On yet? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was breathtaking. I was blown away. When it finished, I just wanted more. And I cannot wait to see what Mike Mills makes next. As always, if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot, lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm making a ton of new content this new year. I've got plenty of plans for the future for new content for y'all, and I can't wait to get that out there for you. As always, Internet, thanks so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.